on now to talk about the role of city governments or town governments in community engagement. And that has two main reasons for that. The first is that when a city government is trying to implement adaptation activities, or actually any other initiative around urban development, getting buy-in from local communities is really important, because what you want is them to understand why a particular initiative is being implemented, and to get their support and rather than resistance to that. Communities are really important as actually implementers of adaptation themselves. This is something we typically call community-based adaptation, and this is where communities take the initiative in identifying and actually implementing adaptation options that work for them. And this is really important because this can be where innovation actually happens, because these are people on the ground who are experiencing climate change and therefore are able to actually think about solutions that from that experiential perspective. And the second really important aspect is that in resource-constrained cities, city government can't do everything. So kind of distributing the opportunities and responsibilities for responding to climate change, where communities take some of that responsibility, also means that we can end up with a much more comprehensive set of adaptation responses within the city context. So the role of the city then, the city government, is to make it easy for communities to undertake their own initiatives. And that can just be around making the resources available for them to do that, but also importantly, making it possible within a regulatory sense for communities to easily respond, and not putting up a whole lot of red tape that makes it really hard for them to respond. And therefore, and finally, also assisting with financial mechanisms. So we talk often about direct access to climate finance, and this is where communities can put in almost like mini proposals for funding for a particular action, but that needs to be managed by some entity that has good financial accounting and sort of regulatory processes. And that could be a role of the city government to manage those kind of funds that allow for proposals from communities for resources for particular adaptation options. Another key intervention in the urban government context is just around capacity building. Many government officials are not well versed in what's required in thinking about climate risks and adaptation. So an early adaptation intervention is simply just to increase the capacity of those working in government to operate in this new emerging space, if you like. And that can be both physical, just the number of people working. So if you can find ways to increase the number of people who are working on climate change issues, that makes a big difference. And then the second is around enhancing the capacity of those who are there about how to address climate change in a city context. And then a third way is to actually enhance the capacity of those within the city in terms of accessing finance for adaptation. So there are opportunities through international funds for financing of adaptation, also private sector funds, and many in a city context don't know how to go about doing that. So building capacity for financial access could make a big difference as well. I want to finish off by talking about a really important actor in the urban context, but one that is not a government actor, and that's the insurance industry. Insurers have large financial power. The insurance industry globally has sort of some of the biggest budgets across any sector of the commercial economy, and have sort of budgets that are larger than the national budgets of many African countries. And what I'm talking about here really is around how to use insurance premiums to incentivize adaptation responses. So let me give an example that's not adaptation oriented. That's around the insurance premium any homeowner pays for the contents, insuring the contents of their house. If you have good security installed at your house, whether it's an alarm system, burglar bars, armed response, then you would pay a lower insurance premium than if you didn't have those in place. So the insurance company is incentivizing homeowners to put security in place, which then reduces the probability that the insurers will have to pay out on burglaries. You can think about the same process around the contents of your building and actually the structure of your building in terms of climate risks. So if a homeowner has flood resilient has a flood resilient house, then the insurer may well be willing to offer a lower premium than if it was not flood resilient, and so they can be then incentivized. The homeowners can be incentivized to implement these kind of adaptation options.